Hey, welcome to another empowering episode of Strive 365, your go-to source for conquering life's challenges and thriving no matter the odds. Whether you're seeking mental, physical, emotional, spiritual growth, we're here to help guide you toward a better life. And I'm your host, Justen Arnold, and we're back again with Dan Mason of the Rochester Red Wings. We're on location. Now we're here in the studio just to continue our conversation. So, Dan, thanks for joining us again.
Thanks for having me, Justin.
Yeah, so we got into a little bit of the Red Wings, but I want to know more of your story, like how you got into where you are now.
Well, I don't know how fascinating that is, but I started, I'm from Rochester, grew up in Webster, where life is worth living, obviously, and went to McQuaid Jesuit, and then went to Notre Dame, and then came back home and started my career with the Wings in January of 1990 as an unpaid intern. So you can imagine how excited my parents were after helping me
super pumped, right?
Get through 4 years of school. I came home and said, "Hey, Mom, Dad, guess what? Got my first job. Getting paid $0. Still get to live at home, still get to drive your car, still get to eat your food, and best of all, Mom, you still get to do my laundry." So they were really excited about that. But it's really how you have to get your foot in the door, like a lot of industries, is by doing an internship. But it also helped me realize that this is something I wanted to do as a career. So it was very beneficial to me and hopefully the Red Wings. And after a couple of months, they offered me a job, and I've been there ever since.
What was your first job?
Director of Group Sales.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Notre Dame?
Yes, sir.
How'd you...
My father went there, so I grew up in leprechaun diapers, and he brainwashed me well that God made Notre Dame number one. And so I always had a dream of going there, and McQuaid prepared me enough to allow me the opportunity to get in. And so from there, I just was very fortunate to get in. I would never get in today. It's a lot harder to get in today than it used to be. But so thankfully, my timing was good.
Yeah, so I grew up in the Chicago suburbs and then had grandparents in Western Illinois, and we used to watch Notre Dame games, and I was a fan. I don't know, the Fighting Irish are pretty cool because it was one of the few back on basic cable back in like the 80s and 90s. So I was a fan, and then I saw the Rudy movie and I became a bigger fan.
Yeah, it's the greatest movie of all time.
Yeah. So explore your childhood a little bit. Tell me a little more about how your childhood, how that grew into wanting to get into, the unpaid, why that let's do that role. Let's go into that.
I think, I've always had a great love for sports, playing sports and going to games with my parents and with my family and my buddies. I used to go to a lot of Red Wing games as a kid, like in the 5th, 6th, 7th grade. I just loved being around the game. And my grandfather took me to a lot of baseball games when I was a kid. And, when I interviewed for a bunch of jobs when I was at Notre Dame, and that's what I was just trying to do, is just try and find a job, because that's what what society tells you to do, is just get a job, get your degree, and then go find a job. So I interviewed with about probably 20 different companies, and I think I led the league in rejection letters. We had a wailing wall at our house senior year.
Were you hitting batting average?
No. So we had all of my roommates and I had our rejection letters on a wall right when you walked into our house, and I definitely had the most. And so it really made me focus and figure out what I really wanted to do, because I was just trying to find a job. I really wasn't trying to find something I was passionate about, and I just refocused, reset, and realized that I wanted to work in sports. Thought that I would try that because I wanted to find a job that I woke up every day and I looked forward to going to work. And I was interviewing for jobs that I would have been miserable at. And so luckily the Red Wings gave me a chance, and I've been there ever since.
Man, it was like the universe working in a way to, it's like you went through all these no's for good reason, right? To get to your yes, that was like, yes, right?
Yes,
yeah, so
exactly.
That's really cool about your story there, and a lot of rejection letters. And I think it's good information just for people listening, especially today, right? A lot of people want that yes, and they feel defeated. I feel like what I see, when they get that no, and so it's a really good lesson to learn. So I'm curious of a year span. You don't have to give your age per se, but what were the years, around when you graduated, when you went to Notre Dame? What was going on at that time? What were the years?
So I graduated in 1989. So the last time that Notre Dame won a national championship was my senior year.
No way.
Pretty dang cool. Coach Holtz came in my sophomore year and righted the ship, and so that was a lot. That was a lot of fun to be around. Be a part of that championship season.
That's pretty cool. So did you play like any sports in college, even intramurals or anything?
I played hockey my whole life, really.
Yeah, we talked about that.
So I played when I was at Notre Dame. I played, tried out my freshman year. It surprisingly, a Division I team did not have a need for a 5'6", 115-pound right winger. I don't know why. Yeah. So went the intramural route and also got into coaching when I was in college. I coached youth hockey my sophomore through senior year with a couple of buddies of mine, and it was really one of the more rewarding things I think I did in college, and made me look forward to someday, if I had kids, look forward to coaching my kids.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about too, just coaching, but I want to dive into that for sure. But I'm just curious if you can admit to it on here. Do you have a favorite player, favorite team, both hockey, baseball? If you're allowed to.
Well, I would say hockey. Grew up a Bruins fan, and so I'm still a Bruins fan. Bobby Orr was kind of my hero growing up.
They beat my Blackhawks.
Yeah, well, the future is coming, is looking good for your Hawks.
Connor Bedard looks pretty good this year.
Yeah. And then for baseball, I grew up a Red Sox fan, but my first boss, I'll never forget, I went to work one day, had a Red Sox tie on, and my boss pulled me into his office and he said, "Hey, Mace, who's your favorite team?" I said, or he said, I like your tie. Is that your favorite team? I said, yeah. I figured, goes with the gig, baseball tie. And he goes, yeah, who's your favorite team? I said, well, the Red Sox. And he goes, I'm going to ask you this question again, and I want you to think long and hard about it. And he said, who's your favorite team? And I said, is it the Baltimore Orioles, who were our affiliate at the time? And he said, good answer. So that was the last time I wore my Red Sox tie. And from that point on, I became a fan of whoever our major league affiliate is, and honestly, I thank him for doing that for me, because that is the right thing to do. I should be a fan of our major league affiliate. So right now, the Washington Nationals, or I like to say America's team, is my favorite team.
Okay,
other than the Red Wings, obviously.
What about players? Is there any players you ever looked up to?
As a kid, or any sport. I mean, Joe Montana, growing up and being brainwashed as a young kid to be a Notre Dame fan. Joe Montana was my probably my all-time favorite athlete, and one of the coolest things was getting the chance to meet him and and obviously follow his career, not only with ND, but the amazing career that he had with the 49ers.
Yeah. So let's talk about coaching a little bit. So you were a coach, you saw a passion in that. And do you have any coaches in your past that stick out? Great, bad, anything you like to share?
Yeah, I think both of my high school hockey coaches had a tremendous impact on my life. And they were completely different styles. One was more old school, and the other was a lot younger, closer to our age, and just had a different way how he handled things. I guess a more modern approach, and both. I think I try to take pieces of both of what they taught me. And how they made me become not only a better player, but a better person. And I think coaches can have a tremendous impact on people's lives. And sometimes kids or the players don't realize it until after they are older and more mature. And Joe Altobelli, who is my mentor, and I consider to be the greatest coach of any coach or manager I've ever been around, his sage wisdom and the way he managed people, not only on the field, but, myself and the other people that work for him in the front office, I try to emulate his coaching style or leadership style every day. And, I learned so much from him, and he used to tell me all the time about how Major League Baseball players that he managed would often come up to him 15, 10, 20, 25 years later and say, I couldn't stand you when you were my manager, but now I realize you were the best dang manager I ever had. And so I think oftentimes people don't maybe understand why a coach is doing something until they're much later in life, and then they realize this guy really was doing what was best for me.
It's like parenting too. Like, I mean,
Right.
I didn't realize what some of my parents were doing.
Correct.
Till later in life, and there's a famous quote that you're probably familiar with that a coach. Let me see. A coach can impact more lives in 1 year than most people will in their lifetime, and that could be positive or negative, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So, I was just talking to somebody the other day. He's a landscaper, did some landscaping, and we were talking about like his leadership skills, and I feel like this is rare, but his self-awareness of his leadership abilities in his business. So when he first started his business, he started to emulate, like he played at a high level football, played some minor league football, and he said he started to emulate like his mean, aggressive football coaches that were like yelling and screaming, but he didn't realize it. And he was like, why won't anybody work for me? Why isn't anybody not sticking?
Yeah.
And then he realized, and then he started to emulate his favorite coach. And I asked who his favorite coach was, and it was like, don't laugh, but it was my intramural softball coach. I was like, that's not funny. That's awesome. That's a cool story, because you're this buff football guy and your favorite coach. And he explained some of the attributes similar to what you might attribute to. And I was like, those are great. And so he started to emulate and mirror that, and his business is now flourishing. And same thing. He didn't realize how much his coach's influence his business till he realized how much his business was hurting. So he like looked to another coach that he really looked up to. And so you hit the nail on the head. And, I see it today too. And I would love your perspective, but I'm in it. I'm coaching hockey. Yeah. I'm coaching baseball, two sports of yours. And there's some really good coaches, but why I stepped up even with running a business and being busy and a podcast and all this was the things I was hearing from parents and the things I was seeing and the stats I've just been seeing. I agree with you 100%, the impact, but I'm not seeing, and maybe your perspective is different, but I'm not seeing as a positive on the ice,
right,
on the field. And so we had a great experience when I've been involved in, I'm co-coaching. I'm an assistant with my daughter's team, and he's an amazing head coach. But in baseball, I took the lead, and I got feedback from my assistants. And at the beginning of the year, I set some standards that I had the players and coaches sign in almost like a 3-strike rule, and everything went great. Yeah. And everybody was on board. We didn't win that many games, but it was probably, everyone said it was their best season because we worked as a team. But I would love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, I think especially with youth sports, a coach can really foster a love of the game, whatever game it is, whatever sport it is, or they can kill a love of the game. If you are riding some 8-year-old incessantly because he missed a ground ball or, missed a check or whatever, so I was always a firm believer in when I was coaching hockey and baseball of being positive, and try to use positivity and teamwork, like you mentioned, and being a good teammate. I think those are really, really important, not only to make kids, because kids want positive reinforcement. 100%. Now, sometimes you have to use teachable moments and say, hey, you didn't do this correctly, but I know you probably know that, and I don't need to. If you made an error in the field, everybody in the whole place knows you made an error. I don't need to tell you screwed that up, right? Mm-hmm. So I think trying to take those moments and say, okay, what would you do next time if that happens? Or just say, hey, after the game today, let's just take 10 ground balls. No big deal. I mean, the best players, and sports are hard, man. It's baseball. If you succeed 3 out of 10 times, you are considered the best at what you do. What other profession in the world are you successful 3 out of 10 times and considered good, right?
Yeah.
Major League Hall of Famers make errors. Hall of Famers strike out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can't live and die by every single pitch or every single play. Coach Freeman now at Notre Dame, I think he is an amazing coach, and he has a saying, one play, one life. And you have to forget whatever happened the last play, good or bad, you got to forget it and get ready for the next play. And I think that's a great way to go through life, right? Learn from your mistakes, whatever those mistakes may have been, and make sure you try to do it better the next time. But mistakes can be teachable moments, and you don't have to belittle people for not screwing up, but making a mistake, because we all make mistakes, man. And some coach, some 35-year-old guy yelling at a 9-year-old kid because they made a mistake, I don't think is the right thing. That's just my opinion.
I don't think it's an opinion. You literally had said something I've been saying over the last probably year or so, off and on, where it's one of these things where I've noticed, like, I truly believe, let me say this, I truly believe most kids are doing their best, and really they are just going out there to have fun.
Right.
They're not purposely. There might be that one trouble, but even if there is that one trouble kid,
Right.
to me, in my mind, I want to know why. Is there something going on at home where I know yelling at them is only going to make matters worse?
Right.
But trying to understand and listen to them. Like, I've coached a team where there has been a kid like that, and I sat down, had a conversation, and figured out what the issue was. It was something at home. It was the pressure. You know, like, for example, that happened in baseball, and then in hockey, I worked with a team, and the kid was being forced to play.
Right.
He didn't
want to.
He just wanted to play it for fun.
Right.
Like, in his backyard, maybe on the pond, not competitively.
Yeah.
But his dad wanted him to play. And so he revolted. And so we just said, let's have fun this season.
Yeah.
And we sat down with him and we chatted with him. But most, because I was there, we'll brush that kid off. He's a trouble kid. He'll sit the bench most of the time. And I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I totally get it. But at the end of the day, it goes back to, for me, I'm not trying to grow the next Mario Lemieux or Wayne Gretzky. I'm just trying to help this kid in life. And
most kids that play youth sports are not going to play professionally. Most kids, when they start out,
right?
and are not going to get paid to do whatever sport they're playing. It's to, I look at it as a way to foster a love for whatever sport they're playing, make some new friends, hang out with some kids that maybe, especially with the way hockey is set up, right? You're playing with kids from all over Rochester.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. You could be from Webster and playing with a kid from Henrietta or Greece or Fairport or whatever. And you see those kids, I still see guys that I grew up playing travel or house with, and then we played against each other in high school, and I see them today, and it's just always cool to see those guys. So you build relationships with a lot of different people, and that's one of the cool things about my job is I get to see a lot of people from my past, either guys I went to high school with, or people I went to grade school with, or teachers, or guys I used to play with, moms and dads of guys I used to play with. So it's really fun to see a lot of those people that I had relationships with in my past.
Yeah, I bet that's cool. Like, I mean, have you had any interesting stories, like just at the ballpark of something like that, or somebody you hadn't seen in a while and they just ran into you? Or
I think it happens. Teachers, I get to see a lot of those kind of people, either from grade school or high school. And then again, just, guys I used to play against or with, or people I went to high school with that I haven't seen in 20 or 30 years. It's always cool to see those people and rekindle those relationships.
For those that aren't watching, I just want to point out this guy, every time I've met him twice now, and every time I see him, he's always smiling, and I can feel joy out of this guy's heart. He's got good energy. So if you're not watching and you can't hear that, and I just want you to know this guy's just, he's cool. So he's a good human. But yeah, back to a little bit of that. I learned a statistic just recently about only, less than 1% go pro, less than even less than 8% 8% is like 7.25 go to college. So, and you just mentioned like how that inflicted your life. I mentioned another story. So let's, is there something like that the Red Wings, your organization, is doing as role models or the sport itself and building on the community to help it thrive in these aspects in the coaching world? What do you... Yeah.
Well, I think we try to be a lot more than just a baseball team. Where our formal business name is Rochester Community Baseball. So we try to get...
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah. So we are kind of like the Packers. I know you don't like the Packers as a Bears fan, but we are...
Well... Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But Naomi Silver's dad, back in 1957, started a stock drive to save the team. And so we are a community-owned team. Now the Silvers have the majority of the ownership of the team, the majority of the shares. But so that's how our name is Rochester Community Baseball. So we try to be a lot more than just a baseball team. We try to be an integral part of the community. We're involved in a lot of boards. Naomi especially is involved in quite a few not-for-profit boards. And so are other people in our organization. And we try to do a lot of community outreach over the course of the season. And because, again, we want to be more than just a place where people come to watch baseball. We want to be woven into the fabric of Rochester.
So you obviously you come across, you did coach, you liked it. Do you still see yourself going into that coaching role in your position?
My kids are grown now, and so I think that it's always going to be part of the great memories I have of my kids' childhood, and again, seeing kids that my kids played with, that I coached. That is always one of the highlights of my day. If I see some of these kids that either play with my son or play with my daughter, and I got a chance to coach them and see them now as young adults as opposed to 8 or 9 year olds. It's really cool to see how they have grown and matured. And I think my role now as a 56-year-old guy who has employees that are in their low 20s, I think that is how I have to. That's how I'm coaching now. Is coaching these men and women in my office and teaching them how to be professionals and how to be more than just employee of Rochester Community Baseball, but how to do the right thing and handle themselves in the business world and help them grow. And, hopefully those folks are going to be with our organization for a long time. Yeah. But again, it's inevitable for me because I've seen it many, many times over the years that people will work for us for 5 or 10 or 15 years and then move on to other careers. And it's always fun for me to see and gratifying to see how other people who started their careers with the Red Wings are now doing in the world as moms or as dads and husbands and wives, and just to see how they're handling their affairs now as a parent and as a spouse and as mom or dad.
So you still, sounds like you're still in contact with people that have played with the organization or been with the organization, but no longer are?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I still, mostly people that worked for us in the front office, but I still talk to players all the time, and that's always a blast cool. Too. And it's not guys maybe that are household names that went on to long careers in Major League Baseball, but guys that certainly made their mark here in Rochester and that are either coaching now or they're in other roles in their lives. And it's always a blast catching up with guys that used to play for us.
That's got to be just a cool feeling, almost like, I don't know, I'm imagining like a papa type feeling to see these once kids.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And a lot of guys too, like when my life is a lot different now than it was back in, let's say, 1997. We had an amazing team. We had we were all like in our young 20s or late 20s or early 20s, a lot of us in the front office, and that's sort of the same age that the players were. So we would work our tails off, and then after the games, we would hang out with the players, and we would all end up at the same spots because we were all the same age, and it just so happened. So we had a really that year, 1997.
Bonded,
it was a very magical year. It was the first year in the ballpark. We had a really good team, and there was just great synergy between the front office and the players on the field. And now it is a little bit more different. I think the players look at me as more of this older guy that's been around, and because these guys are in their low 20s. But it's always fun to stay connected with the players that have come through Rochester, and I think they have a great respect and admiration and some awesome memories of playing here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm imagining, do you ever just go out the field and play catch with some of these guys ever? Or?
No, not really. I think the best time I have interacting with the players is during batting practice. I'll just go out there and watch them hit and talk to them while they're at the cage. And but there's a reason why I wear a tie and I work in the front office. I wasn't a very good baseball player, as much as I would love to have been.
Usually some of the best coaches and mentors aren't the best players,
Yes.
I mean, I just started hockey 2 years ago, but I like to think I'm pretty decent at it. So you pointed out something, though, the importance of bonding, that year, 1997. And I'm sure some people listening to this might remember that. And just from not only the team aspect to the behind the scenes aspect and just how important that is. And I feel our team here has done really good, but I've been with other teams where I've assistant, and it's literally just practicing games, and you're not bonding, and you see the difference and the overall success. And I look at success not just in wins and losses. I look at growth, energy, attitude, those kinds of things. So, I mean, how do we get, I'm coming back to this again, because how do we get back to that? How do we get back to this healthier coaching culture? How do we get back to this bonding? Because I feel like part of it, because I'm in the health world, it seems like people are always playing catch up, running behind, going from this to that. So we don't even stop to breathe or think.
Yeah.
And it's become just a competitive world instead of let's have fun sometimes and let's connect.
And I think even as I look at our team, our group of players, sometimes, it used to be, now I'm going to sound like an old man, but
just say it.
It used to be after games, the guys would hang out in the clubhouse for a long time, like hour and a half after the game, just hanging out, playing cards, hanging out. Now it's almost like if I go down there half an hour after the game, everybody's gone. I think phones are a big reason why, and iPads and all that stuff. People are just have their head in their phone all the time.
Even the players?
Oh yeah, because they, and I'm not saying that they don't hang out, but not to the extent that they used to. You know what I mean? So I think it's just different. People in general are different. And I think one of the best memories I have from coaching and having a good group of parents is essential to having a successful year, as well as having a good group of kids. Because when you get a good group of parents, you pick each other up, right? You're given rides, you're hanging out after the games, team parties. And I think those are some of the memories that I have. Some of the fondest memories I have from coaching is just hanging out and building the relationships with the other moms and dads that we had. And I think my kids feel the same way. My kids still today, if they see, a parent that they, they really loved, they get a charge out of seeing Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so.
Yeah. So setbacks, you talked about them earlier, rejection letters. I don't know if internship is a setback, but it's a challenge for sure. And so, what is the advice you give, would you give to some listeners on how to handle those, how to thrive through them, how to strive through them, or maybe a story of somebody you helped through, whether it be through the organization or along those lines?
Story. I think you just have to look at. I think you have to look at setbacks as a part of life, and you have to look at it as a teachable moment, and you just have to use it to better yourself, and use that experience as an education to do better the next time you're faced with that similar situation. And sometimes it's just a matter of, look, man, I'm just going to put my head down and keep plugging away. And that's the only way I'm going to get better is work.
One day.
Yeah. Just keep working. And a lot of times I'm a firm believer in hard work, and a lot of times hard work makes the difference. If you want to be good, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be good. And I tell this to my people that work for me all the time. Don't strive to be good. Strive to be great. Strive to be, one of the best at what you do. And that takes effort, If you want to be good, it doesn't take a whole lot of effort, honestly. If you want to be great, then you know what? It takes some effort.
You made a good point that just spurred a recent memory in my head where one of my good friends, he was trying to get to know my older daughter who plays high-level lacrosse. And he was just asking her questions and, college or what does she want to do? And it basically, the reason why I bring this up was he finally got to the point, like, your competition isn't the girls you're going to be playing against in high school. Like, she's 14. He asked who her favorite school or player was, and it's Syracuse Orange. She got to see him. She got to take pictures with him, and she's like, and they just did really well, obviously. And he's like, that's your competition. Whoever the best player is on Syracuse Orange, that right there, that's your competition. Like, because that's what this is good, this is great, and that's you got to work towards that. Not being better than the next 14 or 15-year-old girl, and I just think that's great advice, and I heard him say that, and you just doubled down on it, and it's something to think about. So people listening, just hear that out. Like, what are you striving for? What is your goal, whether it be in sports or life? And I also just want to add, since I'm all about people in relationships, just make sure you bring the loved ones with you and not forget about them along that journey as well. So, your job cannot be easy, but you sit here and just full of great energy. Like, how do you keep that energy? How do you stay motivated, especially in your position? And how can others take your advice? Just because a lot of people, what I've see, because I work with these clients, I'm come in contact with them, I see them when I'm coaching, stress, anxiety, like, they just aren't smiling as much as a lot of people as I see. And so what can you share?
Well, I'm not a brain surgeon. You know what I mean? I am.
So you don't overcomplicate it, or is that?
Well, I think I'm not saving lives. I'm not, I'm making sure that people have fun, that we make the experience at Innovative Field worth your time and worth your money. That's what we're doing. And if I'm not having fun, then how do I expect you to have fun when you come out to see us? And yes, there's a lot of things that go on, and there's a lot of stress, but I think the way I kind of center myself is by looking in the mirror and say, dude, somebody pays you to work for a baseball team.
That's cool.
How freaking cool is that? Right? And so no matter what the worst day of my job, I still work for a baseball team, and that's pretty cool. And I love it. And I think I feed off the energy of our fans, and I feed off the energy of the people that I work with. And that is what keeps me going.
So it's a culture. That's incredible. So you talked a little bit about seeing people that either played for the Red Wings or the organization go on. Is there any memorable story that sticks out of a player or anybody that started with Red Wings, went on to some great success? And success can be defined in a lot of different ways. So, just add on to that, what lessons can be learned? What lessons can the listeners learn from that journey?
I think the best memories that I have associated with players are guys that toiled in the minor leagues for a long time. And, in baseball, you have prospects and you have other players that are needed to complete your roster, you know, and the prospects are the guys that have the best chance of going up, right? So it's the guys that weren't drafted in the first round. They were drafted in the 20th round or the 35th round back in the day. And to see guys that were never considered to be, you know, have the opportunity, probably never going to get to the major leagues, you know, play in the minor leagues for 10 or 11 years without even a sniff of going up to the big leagues. And then being in that clubhouse when the manager says in front of the whole team, hey guys, you know, so-and-so is going to the major leagues. Tommy Watkins is a great example. Guy that played for us was, we used to call him the mayor of Rochester because he was just awesome with our fans. Just one of the most outgoing players we've ever had. Super cool guy. Just amazing person. And when he went out on the field, just gave it everything he had, like emptied the tank every single night. But he wasn't the most talented on our team. He was, you know, originally called up because we just needed somebody. We needed an extra infielder. He was just going to sit on the bench, but he played his way onto the field more often because he just gave it his all the time. And then our manager walked into the clubhouse and said, Tommy Watkins, congratulations, you're going to the big leagues. And the whole place went crazy because everybody knew that this guy probably was never going to get to the major leagues. And holy cow, he made it. He fulfilled his childhood dream after 10 or 11 years. And most guys don't play in the minor leagues for 10 or 11 years. You know, you get to a certain point and then you just kind of phase out, right? And now he's the third base coach for the Minnesota Twins. So not only did he get a chance to play in the major leagues, he coached and he managed in the minor leagues, and now he's a coach in Major League Baseball and has been and will be for a long time.
Dedication. You just, man, that's such a great lesson for anybody. Again, that's another one striving, like just stick to it. Just stay with it. Persistence. Yeah. Keep working at it. But it sounds like he had that extra, like just always having a good attitude.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think we talked about setbacks, right?
Yeah.
It can be very deflating when you think you're better than a guy that gets called up, but other people keep getting called up to big leagues ahead of you. It can be extremely deflating because you naturally will think, well, what do I have to do? It's no different in business, right? What do I have to do to get this promotion? How come I keep getting passed over and over and over for all these positions that other people that I feel I'm better than keep getting? And in baseball, that happens all the time, and it's a very mental game. And so it's the guys that just put their head down and keep plugging. And when they get a chance to go up, it's just the coolest thing.
Yeah, and it just reminded me of something else we talked about that's a little connected earlier was about, it reminded me of last night. And I saw some players who would get upset by a call or a play or how the scene, where there were some players, and Diggs was one of them, like if a penalty was called or pass interference or whatever, he just got up, went back to the line. And there were other players like that, but there are other ones that throw a fit. I mean, there was a moment where, I don't know if you were watching the game, where the punter just was like swinging his helmet.
Yes.
Like, you know, so it's just, hey, this is part of it. Move on. It's like that in life, and just, this is it. How do we work harder the next play or the next down or the next thing? And so you can center and just be almost stoic. So I think that's great. Well, we're going to be wrapping it up here, but I got a few more questions. I'm always curious. This is me. I don't know if anybody else is. What goes on in the off season?
So we just wrapped up our planning for the 2024 season as we meet as an entire staff and we talk about everything. You know, we celebrate our success from the previous year, so 2023. But really the focus is, okay, 2023 was good, but it's over. So how do we make 2024 better than 2023? How do we make it the best year we've ever had? So really we spend 3 days just talking about every facet of the operation, picking it apart, building it back up. And that's what we were doing this week. And then next week we start putting those plans in place, and we continue to build out our promotional schedule. And really this is the time of year where we're selling season seats. So if anyone wants any, just give us a buzz at 423 or 454-1001. but we're selling our season seats, selling mini plans, selling advertising, putting all the things in place before our opener, which will be in 159 days now, 58 days, on April 2nd. So a lot of planning, a lot of sales. That's what we do in the off season.
You want to sponsor a podcast? Just kidding.
Maybe.
No, but man, so this was going to be a question anyway, so I'll just ask it now. So can you share any of those exciting developments or plans that are on the horizon?
I think we're going to keep it in our back pocket for now and build excitement towards the 2024 season.
Sense.
But we got some cool things planned, and we really think it's going to be a fun year for our fans.
I'm excited. I love it. My son absolutely loves it now that he plays it. And so anything else that you wanted to share on here to talk about before we wrap it up?
No, just thanks to you and thanks to all the fans out there listening that, we can have all the best laid plans in the world and do all this work and planning to make it a great experience. But until the fans come out and show up, it really doesn't mean anything, So I think just continue to thank the great fans of Rochester for their support of Red Wings baseball.
And anything else, since this is on Thriving and Striving, that you'd love to just share? If you could had anybody that's listening right now, whether it be an athlete, a child in school, somebody young that you would love for them to hear that we haven't shared on here, just to keep them motivated, keep them thriving.
I think there's 3 words that I live by every single day. And these 3 words were told to me by the world's most famous groundskeeper, George Toma. So we brought him in as a consultant to, we were having some issues with our field. And we met with him for about a day and a half. And at the end of the session, we're sitting in a room with our groundskeeper and Naomi Silver, our owner, and myself. And he says, you know what? You people have the 3 words that it takes to be successful. And I said, okay, what are the 3 words? And he said, and then some. Now, at that point, I was thinking, well, this guy has been doing more than cutting grass all these years. But he said, you do. I said, you got to explain this, man, because I'm lost, And he said, you do everything in your power to get the job done, and then some. And that really struck a chord with me. And I try to do everything to the best of my ability and then just a little bit more. And I think if everybody approached their lives and everything they do with those 3 words, you're going to have good results.
And yeah, always just one more, like exceeding, not just meeting expectations.
Correct.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you so much. Again,
you got it, Justin.
Hanging out again. This is awesome. It's fun hanging out with you. It's comfortable. I feel like I'm talking to I don't want to age you, but just like a good uncle or something.
All right, I'll take
wise
that.
Advice. The uncle I wish I had. That's a whole other episode. No, but no, I thank you again, and thanks for listening to this episode. And as you all know, this is completely just a nonprofit show done for you guys. So it's listener supported. So continue to like, share, subscribe, get it out to the world, and yeah, come to a Red Wings game. It's a blast. Baseball is America's favorite pastime for a reason, and Red Wings do a great job. Than just about anybody. So again, thank you again, and thank you all for your listeners for tuning in to another episode of Strive 365. Take care.